So as always, thanks everybody for joining us today and welcome to the second Insart webinar. Today we will be talking about the processes of upscaling your business value using the user interfaces and user experience as well. Obviously, nowadays there are lots of different approaches on how this can be done, and the main goal is to understand why do you really need a chance of improvement your business experience via integrating some user experience designs, changes, updates, etc. That's exactly what we're going to discuss today and what we will talk about. So, welcome, let's get started. So, the user experience design is basically getting more and more expressional today. And great diversity of companies make a pretty important decisions to come into this play, to take a look, to try to reach some online presence, and absolutely different services are available to be executed regarding the design nowadays. And obviously, working in such projects in this perspective, it is pretty important to keep in mind that there are lots of different business solutions approaches. And as long as you are continuing creating different aspects, you need to remember how the designing components work in the nowadays world. First of all, let's talk about why do you need the design at all. Then we'll switch to the goals that we are trying to follow, take a look at some different examples, talk about the best design strategies, and finalize with some recommendations. But first of all, I want to say that Insart is a company working in the business-to-business sphere. And B2B is, let's just remind, a term used in the business, marketing, and also economy that allows to mark some relationship between the business services. So just a simple example, let's imagine the company which sells some physical goods, let's say clothes or trousers or sneakers or something. Obviously, they might need a website that will be providing some functionality for a pretty big amount of users because obviously everybody uses sneakers or everybody buys the trousers. And what the owners of the company do, they take a look on the market to take a look at different web services, and they want to find out whether they can hire somebody outsource to provide the development and design, and this is going to be much cheaper than developing everything from scratch. So this is basically the initiation of business-to-business relations, and that's exactly what most companies providing the B2B services do nowadays, and the same what Insart does today, making some services on financial technologies and the fintech itself. Obviously, that people who are involved into these design and processes, they need considering the different types of relations, they need to choose the particular projects, etc. And initially, such schemes, they define the final audiences for the people. And there are lots of different key factors that can be taken into account. Anyway, designing for business is all about thinking about the final customer, and it is pretty important to take into consideration the design aspect here as well. So implementing different solutions, different experience is highly important here to have a chance of making things work exactly as expected. But now let's talk about the reasons, like why do you really need the user experience and user interfaces at all? The B2B sphere exists for like hundreds of years, and it did not appear during the appearance of the web, of the information communication technology, etc., because such a type of collaborations has existed since the very beginning of the world, I believe. Anyway, let's imagine a simple example which is really not related to any tech industry. We have a beautiful city. It's huge, it's enormous, it looks awesome, everything looks perfect, etc. But these skyscrapers, they all have different types of entrances. Some of these skyscrapers, they have the entrances on the second floor, some of them on the first floor, some of them on the ground level. Some have an entrance on the 5th or 10th or even 12th floor, some of them connected via the corridors, some of them via outbound terraces, and any other ways. Living in such a city would be a total madness because just to reach some sort of the entrance or just to get to some building, you would spend like a huge amount of time that would be just a living hell, and you would not just not be able to do this in a simple and easy way. And even though this city might look beautiful and this solution might look interesting, this will not work out, and you have to understand that. So to make the things work expected, the best solution is to keep in mind that every beautiful design has to be followed with some correct approaches. And this is all about user experience, because you have not just to make it beautiful, but also to make it usable. And there are lots of pretty cool aspects on how exactly this can be done. Currently, we are referring to one of the pretty interesting frontiers of the design industry in Ukraine, the Tubik agency, and they provide a set of different recommendations, which we have decided to apply in this presentation as well. So, first of all, your solutions should strengthen the company policy and your personal branding, because the quality of design, it says a lot to the potential clients, whether they want to attract their interface or not. And as long as the good dress is a card of invitation, a good mind is a letter of recommendation. And it still works for all the years. And quality of the design created for the business to business service is actually the internal part of the image and therefore profits. So just remember that B2B differences from the selling to the clients. And even though every client, whether that's a business or not, buy with their eyes. So the stakes actually as the expenses would be higher and the number of leads can be limited. But it is important to remember that such a website or design you're going to be implementing, they must present the company as the higher professionals, as the ones who do the things perfectly. And that's about how the things should work on and how we should use them in the future. So this is the first part. Your design is the way to strengthen your personal branding of the company. Vote for it and keep working on it. The next part is about representing the sociality. Nowadays, people become more and more sociable, and mostly because of the internet, because of an easiness of connecting with different people. And in professional aspects, that is being shown as well. So social networks present a great ground for that aim. So integrating some design elements in social marketing strategy, using the same style, voice, and branding as you have for your marketing campaigns. Basically, there is no other way to strengthen brand awareness except doing something like that. And in this case, design has to be consistent whether you are or wherever you are presenting your company. That might be the headers and the banners, that might be logotypes, styles, the photos you do, the websites you present, the presentations you provide, anything. But remember that as long as sociability is open-mindedness is important to represent sociality as well. Moving next is you need to have the defined and consistent thought out content strategy. Combine visual and textual materials and be pretty careful about the visuals you are using. Make sure that you are fulfilling all the sales stages, all the funnel components, and bring the best conversions of the website possible. Just landing pages and applications of business to business company, making sure that works exactly as needed to you, specifically to you. Moving next. Nowadays, minimalism really does work. It may sound pretty funny, it may sound crazy, but minimalism as minimal design is the thing important that allows you to play around with different approaches. So concise the minimalist solutions in designs, in copywriting, in everything you are doing efficiently, just because this was gonna save your time and effort, and this will save the time of stakeholders whom you're gonna present the results to. Make the minimalism so the people don't have to think about how the things work, how to use them, how to play around with such things. And this is going to be the easiest approach you can implement in your case. So the effective variant of this scenario is just taking place when there's are some concise core information given at the first stage, and there's always some chance to read more. So put the main information in the very beginning and proceed with some simplifications later, so people can read more, can find out more, but only if they want to. Start with the minimalism. Don't make the content complicated since the very beginning, because if the user is interested, they are interested to read more. If they're not, sorry, this works like that. Of course, these solutions should be based on some user research, and don't forget about making the user researches, but it is a really high potential to make the user experiences positive on all the stages possible for your competition. Moving next is you need to understand that regionality differently matters, because in different countries business is being done differently, and it should be always considered with the nature of business relations, the making the considerable impact, the working with a level of trust, your wish to collaborate, and the section of graphic content and layout of the element on the screen or page always should be analyzed from the perspective of which regionality we are going to cover and how we're going to work with them. So the thing you need to remember and the thing you have to pay attention to is that selection of this graphic content has to go through thorough analysis, and as similar as some graphic elements, photo gestures, even word combinations can be treated differently in different countries. The same for the color choices. So to be sure that this is efficient for one specific region doesn't mean that this is going to be applied for the second region as well. And in some cultures, the gestures or word combinations you're going to be using might be totally unacceptable or even offendable. So make sure you are covering the correct regionality and you're analyzing everything correctly. Moving next is that it is all about having the direct leads. The main aim of the website or other piece of design is not just to grow a huge flow of traffic, but also to engage the direct leads which belong to the target audience, and also to potentially take part in the business collaboration in their internal partnership. This is going to be good for both sides. Don't just sell your services, but make sure that you're going to bring some useful things from the partner as well. And it is pretty important to keep in mind that retaining such customers, in specifically this case, has a pretty important role, and it is no less than just involving them into the game of selling your services. Make that a direct connection one by one. And it is all about the direct leads, but it's also about the partnership you are establishing. And as long as you are following this strategy, you are able to keep working with some correct approaches. And you can ask, even though we have such a lot of different recommendations, it seems pretty complicated. There are lots of the things to be done. The main question is, how is it possible to change the game in this case? What should I do to change this game? And can I really play around and mess around with the user experience in such a cruel world of business to client, where every single step matters? It is, and there are lots of pretty cool approaches and opportunities that should be done, and you should play around with and pay attention to have a chance of providing different designing strategies, just as it is expected to be done so. So the strategies I'm going to mention below may not work only for the business to business and B2B segment, but for basically any kind of interfaces wherever you work on aimed at the business at all. So anyway, getting this profit, it may be significant, but don't forget that strategy is about possessing your brand, not just making it work like that. So let's get started. The first and the most important part is you have to get the call to action elements, the CTAs, being seen as soon as possible. Basically, they have to be seen instantly. The call to action button should be extremely perfectly visible wherever they are, just because that's the way for any kind of website and not only for the B2B. In the case of the B2B, the price of a click is much higher because usually leads are lower, visitors are often pretty horribly busy. They're running their own businesses, they have to deal something. And they don't tend to spend much time looking for different buttons, for how to click them, for complicated interactions. They just need to click the button. Apply the color, apply the shape or orientation contrast, test the most effective placements, and think over the copy on it, so all the stuff may have a crucial effect on the conversion rates. Call to actions are all about click-through rates, conversion rates, and making people purchase your services as fast as possible. Don't forget this, because this is the most important part you can follow up at all. Moving next, you have to demonstrate your value. What value proposition you provide? Is it really noticeable or not? So getting to the website, the visitors should immediately understand why is it beneficial to them and why is it not. You don't have to make them search for the reason to cooperate with your business to business. You have to show them that you are beneficial since the very beginning, just because they won't do any research by themselves. You can use the catchy slogan, the tagline, something that will express the value proposition briefly. You can take care of the visual performance. The typographic hierarchy also can help users' eye catch some specific components first. Make some main messages bold. Make some things pay attention of the user. So play around making sure that some specific components are being used. And this will help you catch users' eye and help them find the specific components you really want. Moving next, your content is the key. Do not overwhelm the users with the amount of information. You have to make things prioritized. Because basically, there is a pretty big competition in the business that aims to show all the strongest sizes as possible as they can. And usually that might lead the website with a huge amount of data just to be lost. The visitor is going to be confused, annoyed, even frightened. They are opening up. They see like dozens of different texts moving around. They don't understand what's going on. And especially it is hard in the cases when your visual hierarchy isn't thought out or tested properly. Something goes wrong, some bugs happens, something else goes wrong. So the page risks transforming into a mess and you cannot scan it as quickly as you would like. So prioritization is a friend for both user and designer, because the designers have a simplification in making the design correct. But for the users, it is much easier to find the material they really need. So try as a designer, as a businessman, to apply the design techniques and layout that will not distract, but will strengthen your visual performance of the core information and will provide you a possibility of not to overwhelm or confuse the user, but make them interested since the very first content part you are providing. And the same is about making things digestible. So just make sure that you are correct around all the copy blocks, because the debates around the theme of copy blocks are still hot and pretty actual. And some people say the copies should be short. Some people say that copyright should be long, but both may be effective. And a decision on the amount of the copy has to be based only on the research you do for the audience. And testing it directly influences your conversions a lot. So for example, if you present a famous company product or a service and you want to inform them about some special offers, sometimes short and concise copy is totally enough to encourage the users. But if in you some unknown product or a service is being presented, it may be pretty important to provide the users with more information, persuading them to follow your call to actions, to make sure they're doing that. And whatever is your decision, the copy content should be given in different pretty well scannable blocks. They don't have to be too big. Don't overwhelm the users with the huge letters. At the same time, the user doesn't have to think that reading will take too much time. Don't make the parts of the text too long, because they will look like something super time consuming. And scanning these blocks also allows you to have a faster understanding if the copy brings you some information, if it's not, how to work around with that, etc. And that's a pretty important component as well. Make sure your copy is not just short, but is understandable as well. Moving next is about having some core data. Usually, users decide on staying on the website or leaving it just within a couple of seconds. According to the latest research, it takes something like 2 and 8 seconds to decide what to do with the website, to leave or to stay. And it's a really matter of seconds usually. So all the key information would be better seen in the pre-scroll area, including some value proposition, the ability to contact, the jury holding, something else. All the components have to be one by one stepped over, so the users don't make hesitation on whether to leave your website or not. They have to stay. You have to make them stay. And that's the most important part. So it is about the next step. Play with visuals. You have to activate the power of color psychology, because usually The colors present the best support in sending up the correct message to the final user. Being attentive to the target audience's preferences, you can select some colors only on the basis of the nice looks, and you'll get something like you can see at the current presentation. But also there is such thing as the color psychology, and it explains associations that people have with different colors. Why red is a color of something bad? Why blue or green is a color of calm? What is neuromarketing? How to use such things together? So these things should be applied all together to make sure that you are working out correctly with them. And the next part is about applying the catchy visuals, because usually a picture is something worthy a thousand of words. And that is not just because it is more appealing or more beautiful, but because there is lots of different cases where image or picture can be perceived much faster than the words or the text. It processed just faster. And moreover, the attractive visual content, whether it's a photo, graphic, an illustration, a poster, it is another source of informing your user. Kids usually like the toys with some beautiful images on the bottom of the packaging. The same goes here. The client loves beautiful visuals, and don't forget to implement them just to make sure that your client is going to be happy with what you do, what you provide, and how the things work. So illustrations or poster may become another source of informing, and it's all about value proposition you are providing as a company to the business you want to sell your services to. So play with the visuals. Don't play with them just like I did on this slide. That's a bad example, but make things work correctly. And the same about considering some promo video content, because the promo video is also a visual, but it's a dynamic set of images. So presenting some promo videos as the popular trend in business now enables you to inform the users about different benefits in a fast and pretty original way. What is more, it of course may influence the loading speed of your page, the time the user processes the information. Not everybody is ready to take a look at your video right away. But in case you have something eye-catchy, maybe even without the sound, that will work out correctly. And just playing around with some video content may help you out a lot with different cases. The same thing here is about applying the landing pages for some special offers. Don't forget about the special offers. Don't forget to use the separated pages, because here you have a chance to run some A/B testing and make sure that you're focusing on the user's intention, on some specific info, instead of just making people search around the websites. So that's especially important in case the sales funnel starts out the website. And as long as you do this correctly, you have the visuals working out just as expected. Moving next. Do not forget about the testimonials and the signs of trust. You have to show the users that people trust you. The word of mouth is the best advertisement, and especially in the business-to-business sphere where the leads are endable. So making a decision on collaboration, people tend to consider references. Testimonials and other signs of trust are pretty important here. And from the previous client's positive factors, the new ones will take a solution on whether they want to work on or not. So just to make sure you're available and easy foundable to keep working with the specific components. And moving next, you need to let the users contact duty holders from any point of their journey, not just in the end, on the very beginning. So contacts have to be presented in different variants. They can be presented in different variants. And they have to reveal the data like phone number, locations, emails, messengers, contact forms, instant chat windows, anything. But you have to make sure that the phone numbers are clickable. The users are supported with some ongoing hints, and they will be able to call right away. Make sure that on your smartphone, on your website, the phone number is clickable. It's fast and easy to do. That mail to tag is applied to your emails. That the user is going to have a chance to send an email right away without copy pasting something. Address should also be clickable, and opening up the screenshot, or even better, a map showing the road from the current location to the location you are possessing as your address. The solution has to be based on thoughtful user researches, of course, and you need to define the audience's expectations, some level of literacy, and obviously some ways of contacting for the users. But anyway, don't forget that the easier it is to contact with you, the better and the further you go. Hopefully, these mentioned strategies will help you, and it is not only aimed at the designing, but also the entrepreneurship itself, because having this implemented does not require some designing skills. You just have to implement these strategies to make sure your even the simplest website works correctly, and this is just the very beginning on how the things may work out and how to use them. Anyway, there is a great recommendation that we've been gathering around the medium, around the Tubic, again, recommendations, some recommended by Insart designers. I'd like to recommend you to take a look at. So there are basically something like 12 different pretty interesting books that you can find out about. So the first one is an article about the role of branding in the UI design. You need to identify how the branding works and why is it important in user interfaces. The second part is about the business-oriented design. Once you know your target, you know how to move further. Another thing to play around is the key abbreviations for businesses. So the shorter your copies are, the easiest it is to use them. So short by little is a great approach. The business terms in design for e-commerce is also a great idea, and as long as you have some sales basics, you have to work out correctly. There are several different types of user motivation. Think about this as well. And as long as you work with different user motivating types, you have a chance to provide some design recommendations, some satisfaction ideas, etc. There's some important ideas about working with the home pages as well. And working with homies is a separate idea on how to attract the clients into your business. Think about working with the home pages. Finally, there is a book named Direct Flight to High Conversion about how to use your landing pages to make sure everything connects correctly. So make sure these all things work. We're really happy that you have joined this webinar. And don't forget that Insart provides lots of different user experience analysis services. So it is not just needed to know these ways by yourself, but also sometimes to trust professionals who can help you with this. So in case you want to find out how to work with it, please open up the insart.com and on the schedule a call form, notify that you have come from the webinar of the UIUX. As soon as this happens, we'll be able to provide you a free consultation on your user experience design, on your service. And this is the way we are trying to help you out and to boost the business-to-business area at all. As soon as this works, you'll be able to attract much more leads, and we'll be happy to be a part of it. So in case you have liked this presentation, take a look at the insart.com, take a look at what we do, and we really hope to have a chance to collaborate with you. My name is Bogdan Glushko. This is the second webinar we have launched, and I'm really grateful you have joined us today. Thanks a lot for that. I really appreciate that, and have the best weekend possible. See ya.